Miles, got you. All right, everybody, come off mute. Let's make it fun. Let's make it energetic. So yeah, it looks like we got everybody. My name is Greer. Welcome to Playback's very first Twitter space. And today we're hosting a WNBA playoffs preview with several of our creators who have been watching WNBA games on the platform all season long. For those of you who don't know Playback or aren't familiar with us at Playback, we're building a much better way for communities and fans to watch live sports. And we're doing that by integrating community and creators directly into the watch experience. I am going to link our promo video. Howard, you can tell Isabel to send an invite and I will make her a speaker, or send a request and I'll make her a speaker. I'm going to pin our promo video at the top of this space so you can see a little bit more about what I'm talking about. And I'm also going to pin a thread that we posted yesterday highlighting the 5 best moments that were captured on our platform this WNBA season. Okay.
It was some good moments.
I know, great moments. And we really thank you all for taking the time to watch with your communities, building community on the platform. We've been really blown away with everyone's audience and community. So I've already introduced myself. I've introduced Playback. Now I'd like to go around the room and have every speaker and community introduce themselves so that people understand better how you cover the W. On my screen, I see Howard first. So Howard and the next, please introduce yourselves. Okay.
Well, while we waiting on Howard, I can go.
Go ahead, Lo.
Here we go. You hear me?
Right.
Okay, wait.
There you go.
Howard got it together. Go ahead, Howard.
Terrific. Thanks, and great to be together with all of you guys. I am Howard Mcdowell, founder and editor of The Next. You obviously can follow us on Twitter at The Next Hoops. I'm really excited about what Playback allows us to do because we have a team of north of 30 journalists who are covering women's basketball 24/7 across the league. We have somebody in every market, all 12 markets, writing regularly about the WNBA. We cover women's college basketball. We have a EuroLeague contributor as well. And essentially the idea behind what we do at The Next is creating a full service newsroom to make sure that women's basketball is covered the way it is easy to take for granted men's sports get covered over and over again. And so my group just does incredible work when we get to be part of watching and Playback. And if you watch with us, you're able to see every single playoff game. At halftime, our reporters who are in the arena are able to tell you what's going on. Our reporters who are talking to folks pregame are giving you inside access. And those of us who are watching from afar get the opportunity to break down the teams they've been covering all year. So it's just a really fun thing for us to be able to do and be able to spotlight what so many people are doing at The Next. I want to turn it over to Isabel Rodriguez, who's doing incredible work and is part of a group that, again, not only does the work here at The Next, but is a pipeline for us to be able to send people on to Sports Illustrated, the New York Times, the Washington Post. That's what happens to people who are part of our group, even as they go forward. So, Isabel, I want to turn things over to you. Just to talk a little bit about, what the experience has been like working here and how it came about.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Hope you can hear me okay. My name's Isabel. I'm a writer for The Next. I work on lots of different things, everything from breaking news to I'm currently working on our project about the Women's Professional Basketball League, which is more of a historical project. And then I also write the Daily Briefing with M, who I believe is in here somewhere hanging out. Thanks, M. But I also write that a couple times a week. And yeah, I've had a great time with Playback and also at The Next. I started in March and have been having a great time since. So thanks for having me.
Okay, so now I can
Go ahead, love. Do your thing.
All right. Hey, y'all. It's Lo, a.k.a. Big Lo, a.k.a. Lo the Stally, a.k.a. Not Too Much. I'm with the committee. I'm with the committee, and we just always giving a real of all aspects of women's basketball. You ready, Shawnee? You ready, Big Shawnee?
Yeah, I got you. Toss it to me. So I got the alley, but yeah, I'm Shawnee, usually the host of spaces. And like Lo said, like we really just pride ourselves on having conversations that may not be in the mainstream media, highlighting things that may not have come up, and really just having fun with the game. So that's what we do, and we have fun doing it.
Hoopstresses, you guys want to go next?
So, I'm logged in from the Hoopstresses account, but I'm speaking from my personal one. We're a little dispersed, a little spread out today, but I am Siobhan Beslow. I am part of Hoopstresses, started by Nat Fluential. Shout out to her. Former player, played D1, played 3 seasons at LaSalle, a season at Norfolk State back home, and then spent 3 seasons overseas. I cover a lot of NBA stuff, got heavier into the W over the last couple years, do a lot of film and gameplay breakdowns on the timeline. And that's pretty much where I'm at. Nat, our fearless leader, is on vacation this week, as she deserves. So I'm helming the Hoopstresses account from my laptop, but I'm speaking from my personal account. So yeah, that's me.
And I'm the other hoopstress on stage today. My name is Sabria Whitaker, as well as founding Grow the Game and being a hoopstress. Some people might see me on the CHGO Sky Show under the CHGO and All City Network. So happy to be here, happy to represent the hoopstresses. Love seeing everyone that's in the room today and what we're able to do by having conversations and spaces and on Playback surrounding the WNBA. So thank you for having me.
Owen and Miles, you guys want to go up next?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, very flattered to be here. I'm Owen Pence. I'm with Winsider.com. I also write for Queen Ballers Club and Nets Republic. I'm the president of the Kalia Copper fan club, president of the Jackie Young fan club. And just appreciate you guys having me.
And like Owen, I'm here representing Winsider, even though I also write for those other outlets as well. Very happy to be here. We're going to jump from this right into Playback afterwards to watch the Liberty and the Sky game. Primarily, the Liberty are my beat, but I also do national writing depending on what's going on in the off-season, especially.
And last but certainly not least, Nikias, do you want to introduce yourself and the dunker spot?
Sure. I am Nikias Duncan. I am one half of the Dunker Spot podcast, an NBA and WNBA podcast where we kind of take a look at the game through an X's and O's lens. I also write for basketballnews.com. I am excited to be here, also honored to be here with a lot of people who have been killing it in the WNBA space for quite some time, and I appreciate everyone being as welcoming as they have been to me, to Steve, and just anyone that's kind of joining in and focusing more on the W. It's been a blast, and I am ready to keep it rolling.
All right, that is all fine and good. That was very PC with everyone's introductions. I really appreciate that. But let's get into the nitty gritty, which are these matchups. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of difference of opinions when it comes to these matchups. So let's just look at the very first matchup, which is Las Vegas versus Phoenix, the number 1 seed versus the 8 seed. Las Vegas has been a top 3 team all season long, I think. Phoenix bounced in and out of playoff contention all season long. So let's hear from our people at the Next. Who do you have advancing in this matchup, and how many games do you think it's going to take?
I think it would be difficult for Phoenix to win a game here. I think asking them to go into Vegas and win either one of those would be difficult.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if Phoenix is going to pull off a win, it'll be on pure grit and pure grit alone. And I mean, I think Diamond Shields definitely has the capability to pull something like that out of them, but it would take a lot, I think.
Are there any differences of opinions here? It's going to be a 2-game series, the way Howard and Isabel are calling it right now. But there is a potential for a third game. Does anyone see this going 3 games?
Nope. Grab the brooms.
No, not gonna happen.
Sweet City.
Definitely shouldn't happen.
Hoodies on, blazers up.
Okay, so with that being said, right, what do you guys want to see from Las Vegas? Because their aspirations don't just stop at a first round, advancing out of the first round, right? They want to win the championship. So what are you guys looking for from Las Vegas to make you believe that they're a team that could be hoisting the trophy at the end of this?
Well, if I could go as possibly the only resident Aces fan, well, aside from them, my bad. But defense, that's erasure. That's my fault. But defense has been like a point of contention all season long. So like if they could play defense at a high level, not just, on Sophie and Diamond, but like for a full game, I think like then that'll set the tone for the rest of the playoffs, in my opinion.
In addition to that, I think their offense needs to be a well-oiled machine. They tend to get a little stagnant sometimes, or they just start forcing up a lot of wild shots. I just think they need to stay true to the game plan and do what they got to do as well, because it might work against a Phoenix, but it's not going to work going forward.
I think they have to get some paint presence. I know Asia's going to do what Asia does, but she's also, a threat now from distance. And again, like Lo just said, there's some stuff that they may be able to get away with Phoenix, but going deeper and looking at, teams like Connecticut and other teams that are a little bit more stout up front. And they don't necessarily have a guard that's putting a lot of pressure at the rim. Jackie's giving them some stuff mid-range. Chelsea's making some incredible shots. Kelsey's shooting well. I think I want to see how Vegas establishes themselves or comports themselves around the rim.
I'd like to see what they do in the fourth quarter. This team, if you look at their net rating overall, it's 6.7. If you look at just their fourth quarter net rating, it's minus 0.3. I think there's a couple reasons for it. I think one is they have played a short rotation all year. Becky's been quite upfront about that. Starters are playing big minutes and wearing down some of the time. I think also you just have an issue that if you don't trust your rotation, that it's a kind of a chicken and egg thing, and maybe you can't rely on them. Come the fourth quarter. But either way, ultimately, I think it's asking a lot, especially when you get into those later rounds. And there are some real deep teams. Chicago's the deepest team around. For them to do something like beat the Sky in a 5-game series, I think it's going to require some real stamina that I'm not sure we've seen from them yet.
I want to see them get Raquana Williams going. And I think that an interesting thing to experiment with would be if they go up, let's say 20 at halftime or something. I'd love to see the starting lineup with Bebe instead of Stokes, because I feel like this is a good time to test it out, and I feel like that could be a weapon going forward, but it also could be, too vulnerable down low. So I'd like to see them kind of just play with some things. I also want to see them draw as many Sophie Cunningham technical fouls as possible.
I would say on the Aces front, I just want to see them. They have to be able to get to the rim. Siobhan already kind of hit on it, but they were towards the bottom in the league in terms of the percentage of shots that they got at the rim. They have been seeing a lot more unders. I think Phoenix in particular, they have shown some new comfort going with their zone as they've gone to more of a small ball experiment with some of their injuries and just players not being available. So I want to see if the Aces can generate paint touches consistently.
I was going to talk about that zone too, and just Phoenix being undersized, because it's important, I think, for the Aces to make a deep run. They need to establish their post identity, and that means playing through Asia Wilson on the low block. And when Phoenix has a small 4 in there in Sophie Cunningham, and there's going to be help coming over, that just then has the spacing that we've seen all season where they're successful with Jackie and with Kelsey, with Chelsea, surrounding Asia. I think that this could be a good way for them to set the tone, get some inside-outside going.
You talked about them being undersized. Like Phoenix is undermanned too. Phoenix and Vegas haven't seen each other since May 21st, and Phoenix looks so much different than what they did starting the season. So I think it's just a lot for them to kind of overcome.
Okay, so we got the brooms out for Phoenix. They're going to Cancun in like 4 days. Got it. Next up, Chicago, the defending champs, the Chicago Sky, and your beat, Miles, the New York Liberty at number 7. Let's get into it. You can start. Let's say, how many games do you think this is going, and ultimately, who do you think will be advancing?
So selfishly, I want this to go 3 games just so that Brooklyn gets their first ever Liberty playoff game at home. As a franchise, the Liberty lost a lot of faith in their fan base when James Dolan screwed the team over, sold it. They went up to Westchester for a few years before returning to the city. So just in terms of building up that fan base, I think 3 would be a lot of fun. And for that to happen, the Liberty, who are a team that live and die by the 3, will have to have one of their shooting games. One of those are important 3-point shooting games. And they lead the league with 9.7 threes a night. What could slow them down, though, is the first quarter. The first quarter, I think, is essential to look at. The Liberty are near the bottom in the league in terms of first quarter scoring, while the Sky are at the top. So it's going to come down to that. And then just the reserves. It's an Azrae Stevens and a Julie Aleman coming off the bench against Beck Allen, Han Shu, Maureen Johannes. So if the Liberty can hang around, kind of absorb a first punch, then maybe they can hang around for 3 in this series.
If someone else has a take, please don't be shy. We want to hear.
We'd love to jump in. Just point out a great thing that Jackie Powell, who does incredible work for us covering the Liberty over at thenexthoops.com, had asking Benaiza Laney and Steph Dolson about being underdogs. And Laney comes back, we're the underdogs. And there really is just that mentality. And it, from Sabrina on down through Benaiza Laney, who's been such a great leader, that this Liberty team does not feel outmatched, even though they may not win this one. And I agree with Miles. It's very much going to be a case where they have to have their best shooting performances in order to force a game 3 and perhaps to ultimately win. I do think we end up seeing a game 3 back in Brooklyn in this one. I don't ultimately think the Liberty are going to win it just because Chicago has so much postseason experience and just so much talent to overwhelm them. But I do think we're in for a really dramatic series.
I agree with Howard. I think this one could go 3 because according to James Wade, they're about to be without Lee. And I don't know where you get those 1.5 points and 1.5 rebounds from. Like, you really got to dig deep and overcome that. But, but seriously, to Howard's point, like, I think they're just too deep and too experienced. You got former finals MVP Big Meese holding it down. I think she's going to get the best of my girl, Han Soo. But, Han Soo's going to come back better after this experience, going to lead her team next year. So we'll see. But I think, Chicago's going to go ahead and take this one.
Okay, Shawnee, not too much. Not too much.
Okay,
because,
but that's...
No. Because, I get it. No, we haven't seen a lot of her. But the thing about New York is I think they live and die by the 3. And I think that's essentially what this entire matchup is going to be about. So if Han Soo is in the paint doing what she does, I'm worried that they just become a little bigger than Chicago. And so maybe that's where he was going with this as far as the size goes. But
he plays her 5 minutes. Put Ruthie in there, though. What you mean?
It was his vision. What you mean? It was the vision. It was the vision. I don't know what the game plan is, but I just know that Chicago has to absolutely defend the hell out of the 3-point, the perimeter completely. Otherwise, they could shoot it out early. And Chicago has lately had a problem with maintaining leads and overcoming deficits. So I agree with everybody that I think this is going to end up being 3 games, but then I'm just going to have to emphasize Coach Wade's point that this new system of the deciding game going to the lower seeded team is ridiculous. And I don't want it to go to New York because I know how it is. But I think this could be a series like how last year Chicago won it all, so they got rid of single elimination. I think this is a series that they might end up rethinking this new 2-1 matchup.
And if that happens, that's a good thing, right? Because, sorry to cut you off, Lo, but if that happens, that's a good thing because it means that we're getting chartered flights in the playoffs next year. So we should be rooting for one of these upsets to happen.
But not mine. Just not mine.
I'll be on the chartered flights when. Never mind, I can't say that up there. I do think that defense is going to be key. So, in my opinion, I need a little more Dana minutes because I feel like Dana is a better defender than some of the other guards. So I think you're going to need her, especially if they start to get hot. So I think if James can kind of use his bench a little more, I don't see it being no crazy little series, to be honest.
I have a question since we got like people I don't usually interact with. Like, how do y'all feel Benaja looks right now? Like, is that a point of contention? Like, her still trying to get her rhythm and what have you?
She absolutely is still trying to get her rhythm. She's looking more and more comfortable every game. You're not going to see her at 100%. You're not going to see all-star
right
in this series. I think what she does do, though, is just bring some more strength on the wing, some more wing versatility so that you can have Beck Allen coming off the bench. And just in terms of not having that let up, just having her out there, especially alongside Natasha Howard, just helps everybody else recover that's on the floor at the same time.
See, I don't think this series is coming back to New York. I think that people are starting to take the Sky a little lightly or just forgetting how dominant they were this year just because they ended the regular season poorly and got overtaken by Vegas. And I think to the point about Benaja, like, you know, she has the mentality when she steps out there that she's just going to go get it. And that's why we all love her. But to Miles' point, like, she isn't 100% yet. And I just think there are going to be some of those possessions during this series where, you know, she's operating at, you know, her all-star mentality and it's just not quite there yet. And I just think that there's going to be some of those offensive possessions that end in missed jump shots, and you can't have those against the best team in the league.
I think this is going to end up being a 2-game series for Chicago, honestly. Like, I want to pick the upset pick because the Liberty have a lot of talent. I just don't know if I trust the decision-making with how well Chicago still defends. Like, they are one of the best defenses in the W, but also one of the more aggressive ones. And part of the first quarter woes that Howard brought up earlier is because the Liberty turned the ball over a lot. And just that constant pressure, one, Sabrina's felt like she's getting more comfortable seeing those kind of coverages, but then it comes down to, okay, who's making the decisions if she gets rid of the ball? And will they be able to make enough good decisions to really bend Chicago's defense enough? And I don't know if I see that enough for an upset pick.
Yeah, the turnovers was what I was going to point out. I think that's something that, besides like Connecticut, I think Chicago does pretty well, is taking advantage of those turnovers. And especially if New York isn't able to kind of come out swinging from the 3-point line, that's something that Chicago can really take advantage of. And in terms of comeback teams, I mean, I think I trust Chicago to get themselves out of a hole, but I'm not sure that, especially in a high-pressure situation, that I really trust that the Liberty will be able to do the same. So I see it going to 2, and that's it.
Can I just point out that, like, obviously I'm going for Chicago. I don't want them to have to go to New York. Would love to, to get it done in 2. But I also think it's worth mentioning that this is the coach of Sandy Brondello that just saw us in the finals last year, who is now coaching this Liberty team. They also have our former assistant coach and one of our former core players in Stephanie Dolson. So if nothing else to kind of, like, if there's going to be an upset, I'm just going to go with them because I think those are 3 very compelling reasons. If nothing else, just besides the fact that if Natasha Howard and everybody gets going with the 3, it's give or take. And also the last 3 times we've seen them, they've been really, really close games. And it's like from the beginning of the season when I think Candace Parker got her triple-double, then Sabrina turned around and got one on against us. And then like they just keep going back and forth. So I think it's a lot of anything you can do, I can do better vibes. So I just think it's not going to be as clear cut as we think, but I'm hoping that I'm wrong, obviously, in favor of Chicago.
I will say, I think this is maybe the best situation that New York could have found themselves in terms of like a first round matchup. Because honestly, I really don't see the Liberty going too far this year, but I do see them going far in the coming years, like the next two years roughly. So getting this kind of experience against a team like Chicago, I think is going to be huge, especially for players like Sabrina and Han. I think this is going to be really big in terms of making sure that they're comfortable in that type of environment, especially if they are able to get it to come back to Brooklyn. That would be even more important in terms of how they do in the coming years.
Okay, moral victories. Got it. Next, or is there? That is a moral victory. Like we want to win today. Not 365 days from now. We're trying to win today. Any other points about New York and Chicago? Because it sounds like there's a pretty split group here. We got some people saying sweep and maybe another few people saying 3 games.
I just wanted to say before we move on that is kind of, that moral victory argument is kind of what the Liberty did last season, right? When there was the 1-game playoff to Phoenix where Benaja Laney came down and tied the game before they lost in the final second. So this team, as to Howard's point, like he was saying before, they are not looking at themselves as underdogs. These have been close games with the exception of that first game where Sloot hit a game winner, then Sloot put a game away with a big 3 the next time that they met, and then she was absent for the third one. So controlling Courtney Vandersloot's going to be huge for the Liberty, but I want to see us get at least one of those Maureen Johannes games, put her on the national stage, let her go out there, score 20 points, and then that's just going to be something to remember this series for, if nothing else.
Just kind of
Go ahead.
Go ahead, guys.
Oh, I was just going to say just a general Chicago note, because again, I think they're winning this series, but I do kind of want to ask the room, like, where are we at on Chicago as a shooting team? Like, how do we feel about their 3-point shooting?
See, I don't know, because I was just about to talk like the contrast and where both of these teams get their offense from, right? So New York being first in percentage points off of 3, and then Chicago is second in percentage of points out of in the paint. And so I don't know that I had an answer to your question, but your question kind of just led into or fed into what I was thinking about. So I don't know how we feel. I don't know how I feel about Chicago as a 3-point shooting team.
To me, the biggest question for Chicago in the playoffs is, are we getting the version of Allie Quigley that we saw in the finals last year, or are we getting the version that we've seen in the regular season this year? Because Rebecca Gardner's been closing a lot of games for them. Mm-hmm. And I think that they need Quigley to be the sniper, the release valve on this offense if they're going to win the title again. And I expect her to do it. I expect her to come with it, but that's a question.
I will say, in defense of Allie Quigley, she was real cold to start the year. I found it very difficult to doubt that she would figure it out. She's at 38.5% in the last 17 games. She's really right up to about where she typically is from 3. It's a great point, and it would be fascinating to see who James closes with. But she has been, for a not insignificant part of this season, very much the Allie Quigley that I feel like we've come to know over the last few years. So that is fundamentally who I expect in the playoffs.
Okay. The next matchup, we have the number 3 seed Connecticut Sun versus the number 6 seed Dallas Wings. A little like housekeeping. Dallas Wings, it looks like Satu might be ready to go, and Izzy is possibly nursing a shoulder injury. And we all know that Enrique will likely be out this entire round. So, Shawnee, there you go. What do you interjected. Who do you think is advancing and in how many games?
Okay, so I said I was an Aces fan, but the Dallas Wings still have the capacity to make me very upset. And having said that, what I want to happen is an upset. What I think is going to happen is Connecticut is going to pull it off, because I'm still leery about fourth quarter Wings showing their head. They do some really weird stuff down the stretch. Vicky Johnson's lineup sometimes make my head hurt. And they have some chaotic players, some more chaotic players than others. And it's kind of like, can she balance them in the playoffs, especially with Satu coming back? Because Satu is one of those players where she needs she needs a minute to really like get her legs under her, so to speak. And I hope they don't force it. I hope she plays Ty Harris the amount of time she should play her, because she is really a calming force. I really want to see Big T go against Bree Jones. I think that's the heavyweight matchup we've all been waiting for all season, of course. But yeah, I think Dallas has enough talent to pull the upset off. It's just a matter of, are they going to do the little things to actually get it done?
I'm a little worried. One, I have Connecticut winning the series, and two, I am a little worried about Tierra McCowan in this series. And this is someone that
Excuse you? Sorry.
Oh, this is someone that I've enjoyed watching play as of late. I recently wrote about her and how well she's been playing. But, like, Connecticut's defense is insane, first and foremost. And two, like, I just wonder what it's going to look like with Connecticut actually scheming against her versus her just kind of taking teams by, now I won't say surprise, because people know what Tierra McCowan does, but I do think it's a little bit different when teams can actually game plan for, okay, they're just going to run floppy into a post-up 35 times a game, and we just kind of sit on this. And Tierra isn't the best at handling double teams. And if things bog down, for all the flack that Enrique can catch, like, she can still save possession with some of the bucket getters she can get. Like, you're now asking Marina Mabrey to fill that role, which she's been admirable at doing so far. But behind Marina, it's who?
You talking about that point?
Alicia Gray.
The shot creation in general.
Well, okay, yeah.
You heard
I heard you say Alicia Gray. Can you expound on that?
You already know. I feel like
Gold
she's
medal leash?
Yeah, gold medal leash. Come on now. I think Dallas. I think this series goes 3. I think that Connecticut wins in 3. Because I don't know, Dallas feels like the type of team to take a game when they're the underdog on the road and then lose a home game, in game 3. But I think that Alicia Gray is someone that can be that release valve. In fact, I love Enrique. She's like the ultimate player for me, who as a fan I adore, and as an analyst just drives me nuts. So it's tough. It's tough to slander her, but truly, I just think this team looks better without her on the court. I think they do have those release valves. I also think Veronica Burton has provided a lot more offense recently, second half of the season, and could give them some real nightmares defensively. That Connecticut backcourt is definitely the weakness of the team. You got Leash, you got Veronica locking everything up. You got Marina and Alicia, just shooting on the kickouts. If Tierra can find them, I think that Nikias brings up a really good point, which is that if they double Tierra, can she pass out of it? Can she navigate in that area? But I like the Wings to steal a game for sure.
I really like Nikias' piece on T, and I just have to also shout out Ari Graham, who does such good work covering the Wings, specifically because she told me it was going to be fine. My brain was breaking a little bit when the Winds gave up so much in the way of assets to bring in Tierra McCowan, and then she wasn't playing very much. And Ari assured me that it was going to be fine, and she was eventually going to get into the rotation, and she very much has. Obviously, as the reigning, Western Conference Player of the Month, she's been just a machine over the last. And since she entered the starting lineup, I think it was July 14th, she's like 15.8 points per game, 9.8 rebounds. Someone have to check me on that, but it was about that. And just absolutely dominant. And you add her and what Mabrey has done, especially over the last 7, she's north of 20 points per game and north of 41% from 3. And suddenly you're talking about a team that does have those non-Enrique options. And Enrique, for the things that she does well, and there are significant things she does well, there's an efficiency in both McCowan, who's shooting 60% from the field over this time, and Marina as well, that she doesn't bring. And so it's a different Dallas team. That's what's really interesting to me about this one. Like, Connecticut lost 2 of 3 to Dallas, but they lost to a different Dallas team than the one we're about to see. So I do think Dallas gets a game. And I think it's going to be a really interesting series for sure.
I think Dallas gets a game too. I do think a lot of it's going to come on, like kind of Nakai said, on, I guess, their guard play. I'm interested in what Shawnee said with Bree Jones and Tierra down low, how they go about, using Jonquel and Dewana, Tierra is, a walk minutes or what have you. So I do think Dallas's guards are, if they get a win, I think Dallas's guards are going to have to be the ones to kind of do that for them.
And it might be where all season long the Connecticut Sun have been able to get by without having Jasmine Thomas. But now playoff time, that could come back to bite them, because that's where this team, that's what's holding them back. This is the first time that we're seeing them with the big three of AT, JJ, and Dewana all healthy at the same time. But their point guard play, even though Natisha has stepped up into that role, just she doesn't bring the same thing defensively that Jasmine did, and as a leader on this team as well. But the conversation about Arike and Satu missing so much time, a lot of the focus, I think, they are all-stars, so a lot of the focus is on their names. But Dallas, the problem that they've had over the last few years is they just have too many players on this team, on this roster, that do similar things, that play similar positions. So part of this turnaround might not be so much that those players aren't there, but just the fact that there is a little bit more room for rotations. Players on court can get longer leashes, can play together, can grow together. And I think that that's also been part of the consistent recent stretch of basketball that we've seen.
For me,
Sorry.
I think it's more so of Connecticut getting a loss, because I feel like if Connecticut does what they need to do, it should be no conversation. I think with the big three, AT, JJ, you can even add Bree for 4, DB, all of them. I just think it's too much. Like, I just don't think that Dallas will be able to overcome all of that. Tierra has been great, but, when you got them down there, that's a whole different story. So if Dallas does get a win, quote unquote, I think, and it sounds silly, but I think it's more of a Connecticut loss.
Yeah, because they're going to fight over the last possession. They don't know who's going to shoot that.
Screaming.
I will say the fact that Satu has been out for so long is extremely infuriating. I watching the game where she went out, watching her go back in after going down almost like 5 minutes later was really irritating, and has been since she went down. But I do want to talk about Connecticut, and one of the points that I think is going to be what I'm watching for. One thing that's really been frustrating to watch with them all season and all last season, and almost since Kurt Miller started with the Sun, is just they can't seem to get that turnover number down. And some of the turnovers that they have are just absurd. And so I think whether or not they can keep that number down, and also whether they can, because they're also, they're the top, I think they have the top average steals per game in the league right now. Whether those numbers actually balance out or not is going to be really important for them if they want to keep up with Dallas, or even go blow past Dallas, because they're also the top fast break team in the league, as far as if I remember correctly. So there's a lot of ups and downs with them. You can see I forgot, kind of lost my train of thought, but I think the turnover number is going to be the one that I look for the most with Connecticut, and whether or not they can keep that under control.
I think that's a great point, and it speaks also to their opponent, because if you look at the minutes that specifically Veronica Burton, Alicia Gray, and Kayla Thornton have played together, that trio has been incredible defensively. You just can't do a lot against those three defenders on the floor. So I wonder the same thing. Without Jasmine Thomas, can they even get into their offense without turning the ball over when you have, three elite defenders on the floor?
Dang, y'all don't got no faith in Odyssey? Dang,
I forgot she was still with us. Oh my.
What's tea? Because Odyssey been holding it down, and I think she's a perfect match for Connecticut. What's tea? No? Y'all not feeling Odyssey?
No.
I certainly hope that she I wish her the best and everything, and I hope that she does well. But it's hard to ask that much of her when she literally just started with them, like not like weeks ago, within weeks of right now. So I just don't know whether that's enough to overcome, I mean, the perimeter defense from Dallas, and then also their own kind of turnovers and their own issues on the offensive end. Especially because if you're relying on JJ to get those paint touches, I mean, she's great to finish off a play, but to start one is more difficult. So I think
I don't know. I think
it really
y'all
depends.
I think y'all sleeping on Odyssey a little bit. I'm just saying.
Okay, well, that remains to be seen. We'll find out in the short term, if that's the case. And I mean, okay, let's talk about what on paper appears to be the very best first round matchup of the WNBA playoffs, and that's the number 4 Seattle Storm versus the number 5 Washington Mystics. I mean, just like go down their rosters, nothing but hoopers. I don't know who wants to kick this one off, but the floor is yours.
Can I?
And how many games?
Can I
Go
grab
ahead,
this
Howard,
one? I just to start, I think this one is going down to the last minute and possibly the last possession. You know, when you think about the players that Elena Deladon and Brianna Stewart have been, they've really redefined what inside-outside can mean. And we haven't really seen them in a playoff matchup with both of them healthy. I covered the 2018 WNBA Finals, and Elena was absolutely compromised with that deep bone bruise that, to be frank, I don't understand how she played through. And there hasn't been an overlap with the two of them healthy for a lot of their prime. So to see this now, a 3-game series, a true 2-1, I think it'd be very hard for Seattle to win both. And I think that sends it back to DC and gives you an opportunity where whoever has the ball last has an opportunity to win this one. But I think when we look back at this period of time, we're going to look at the extent to which the two of them have defined a lot of the past few years. And this is just finally a chance to see them match up. There's obviously a lot more to both of these teams, but I just think that top line in the first round is just a crazy luxury, the type of matchup you tend to see later on in the playoffs. We did it right away.
Don't be shy, y'all. I know you got strong opinions about this one.
I got Washington.
Yeah, I feel like that first game is going to tell me what I need to know, because I didn't really like how they looked after they started benching Ezzy, which I still feel like was a choice. So, however they come out in that first game, it's going to tell me how this one's going, in my opinion.
I think the matchup is like spot on. I think the matchup is literally perfect. We talked about this kind of last night in Spaces. I think the key matchup is going to be Jewel and Ariel. That's going to be who, I feel like going to have to make something shake for either team. And Stewie and EDD going to be a movie. Watch. That's going to be a movie.
Right.
That's going to be a movie.
They both going to make it happen.
Yeah, because EDD, like I said, the only one I think that can make Stewie look like a baby sometimes. So it's going to be a movie.
Jewel Lloyd has gotten hot at the right time. She's really been picking it up lately, and she's been the player in the last month that she was last season, and that made Connecticut look so dangerous and so dynamic, because there were a lot of stretches early on in the middle of the season where Stewie did not have that much help offensively. And then part of that might be why they bring in a Tina Charles. But I also agree that putting Ezzy on the bench makes them a much less dynamic team than they were when she was in there and just being everywhere defensively. The first half of the year, she was in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year because she was stealing and blocking everything that came towards the rim, and just in a way that Tina doesn't do for them. But Jewel in the last month, in the month of August, just 5 games, but she's shooting almost 48% after shooting below 40% in each of the first 3 months of the season. So for Jewel to be taking the lead right as the playoffs start in terms of just how she's fitting in, how she's playing, that could do it. That could be what puts Seattle over the top for me.
I'm excited to see Shakira in her first playoff performance. I do agree. I think Elena and Brianna are going to be, I think there's going to be a really fun matchup. Just to take in, I forget who said it earlier. I think Howard. I think just the fact that we haven't seen, much of them head to head, and these are big moments, high leverage situations. I want to see though Shakira. She's been fierce. She's been aggressive all season. I want to see what she looks like, how she's composed come playoffs. I think Shakira and EDD and Tina and Brianna, the twosomes there are what I'm kind of most excited to see. And Miles, I think you're spot on. Jewel coming on as she did, like starting to peak, at a really right time, I do think is big for Seattle. I understand picking DC. I just guess I kind of feel like if Seattle is who they say they are, they should win. Or if like the pieces on Seattle are who we think they are or are who they supposed to be.
I don't know though. We've been hearing all year that Stewie don't have no help on Seattle, so I don't know.
Uh-oh.
I don't know. But go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go.
I like Washington in 3. I think this is going to be the series where the lower seed getting the home game in Game 3 might make a difference. Because somebody said it earlier, like I don't see Seattle just coming out and winning 1 and 2. And are you really going to bet against this Mystics team on their home floor in the final game? And I think the other thing for me is like Seattle has more weak links defensively in that starting lineup. Like I want to see Natasha and Ariel just going at Sue Bird. And I don't think, and you can't go at either of them on the other end. Cloud and Ariel Atkins is the best, arguably the best defensive backcourt in this league. So I think that if Shakira is able to stay composed, which I have a pretty strong feeling that she's going to be really good in this series, I give Washington the slight edge here.
I'm so glad you mentioned Shakira Austin. Actually, Jen Hatfield, who covers the Mystics for us at thenexthoops.com, did such a good story about Shakira. And just from day one, she has played with that authority. There was an initial practice, and Jen was able to get this from Maisha Hines-Allen, that she just sent one into the stands, just a block right away. And it was just to assert, I am here. And she is, I think, relatively uniquely for a rookie, not going to struggle with the brighter lights. But, Owen, to your point about the defense, when these two teams matched up several years ago, Alicia Clark was on Seattle and was a defensive difference maker. And AC being on Washington this time, I think makes a big difference before you even get into the fact that, yes, it's only 4,000 seats. Another conversation for another time is the Mystics should have had a larger arena. But that said, it will be sold out and it will be incredibly loud. That place gets absolutely crazy, and it's going to be a lot of fun, that game. And I do think we're getting to Game 3, and I think DC is going to take it.
Whoever said go at Sue Bird, turn that up. And I don't mean it just do slander.
Okay.
Yeah, hold on. I want everybody to get Rose Bar Rui in there. Let her redo the Olympics performance. Everybody get the ball and go to the bucket.
Nikias or Sabria, do you guys have any thoughts about this series?
Can you all hear me? Or is it too loud?
We can hear you. It's a bit loud in the background, but go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, I just had to throw the first pitch at a baseball game. But I think that this is truly like an equal matchup. Like I know that one is higher seated than the other, and that sometimes seeding doesn't really reflect the actual talent on the team, but I think they're definitely the most similarly matched. So I agree with everybody about it being absolutely 3 games coming down to the wire. But I'm gonna pick DC for the win.
I'm gonna be bold and say Mystic sweep, because look, Kira's ready, right? To everybody's point, Kira has been battling like premier players all season. So no disrespect, but I think she could hold her own against Tina Charles. And then Ezzy is not, again, I still don't look like how they look with Ezzy coming off the bench in that role. So yeah, I'm gonna spice it up and say Mystics in 2.
That is incredibly spicy. That's like ghost pepper level spicy, actually.
Love it.
The one thing I will say, because I happen to think it'll be 3 games, but Seattle takes it. I think the reason is, I mean, it's hard to ignore the fact that Tina Charles hasn't been to the playoffs since 2017, and this is her opportunity to go all the way. I don't think she's going to ignore that, and I'm not going to be the one to doubt her.
So you banking on Tina Charles?
I'm not banking on Tina Charles, but I'm saying if it comes down to the wire and you need a difference maker, that's a motivation that she has that I'm really interested to see how that plays out. Yeah.
Maisha Hines Island gonna handle that.
Yeah. If Kira don't.
That part.
Yeah, they do got some depth in the front court.
Who?
Well, okay.
DC?
Yeah, a little bit.
No, yeah. Again, 2 incredibly well-matched teams.
Very well matched.
Say it again. Love?
I said very well matched.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think the WNBA should be very happy that this is one of the first-round matchups that they got to promote. Okay, so it sounds like most of you guys have chosen Washington to advance. I haven't made any picks today, but I'm a take cover fan, so I got the Seattle Storm advancing in 2 games because I'm gonna be in the building on Sunday night, and that's just what needs to happen.
So what happens when the sweep is pulled off? That's
Johnny. The basketball players have been good to me, and it's not gonna stop on Saturday.
Pack watch.
Possibly. All right. So we got about 5. I gotta be honest. It's possible. We got about 5 minutes before the broadcast all gets started. So I do want to point out that everyone's room is pinned at the top. So please sign up and join Playback if you haven't. Follow everybody who's on stage right now and their publications or their outlets or their communities. We really appreciate everyone for showing up today, giving us your takes. Some spicy, some lukewarm. And obviously, we really appreciate you guys watching on the platform.
And if you got any tips for middle part 20-inch, 30-inch bust down, holla at me in my DM. Thank you.
You will need to provide your cable subscription or league pass to watch with everyone, but we do give everybody a 5 or I think it's a 10-minute grace period, so you can experiment with the platform, see what we're talking about, follow your favorite WNBA personality, and we'll be watching all the way through the finals. And I don't know, who knows, we might do another one of these when it's time for the finals, when we know who's going to be matched up. And again, I really thank everybody for showing up today. Make sure that you are watching with the aforementioned people. It's been a great experience all season long. And go Storm.
Can I just throw out one last thing? This is not at all related to the matchups, but it is something that I will be watching. So if you go into the CBA, the amount of money that a team gets depends on which round they get eliminated in. But the CBA thinks that there are 4 rounds of play when, in fact, there are 3. So I personally will be watching to see if people who get eliminated in the first round get $1,100 or $1,800.
Lord.
I hope they get that $700 boost, but we shall see.
Story to come at the next.
Did anybody read? They just checked and agreed? Good Lord.
The girls.
Children are left behind.
The girls.
Nope, no ma'am. Look.
Bye.
All right, so everybody go get in those rooms. The pregame show is starting in 2 or 3 minutes. And watch with your favorite creator. Again, thank you guys for showing up today. We really appreciate it, and keep up the good work.
Appreciate you putting it together, Greer.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, HR.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Great to be with you all.